I walked in with lilies for my wife's birthday and felt the house tell on her before I saw a thing. By the time I found the trail leading to our bedroom, my gut wasn't guessing anymore. It was confirming. The lilies were still tight in the paper, green stems sweating in my hand. I had work dust on my forearms and that tired hum in my shoulders from a long day, but I'd left early anyway. 38 wasn't a big birthday, not on paper. Still, she'd smiled last year when I showed up with flowers like I was still trying. The front door clicked shut behind me, and the house didn't answer. No TV, no music, no footsteps, just the soft, wrong quiet that makes you slow down without deciding to. I stood in the entry for a second, listening like I could catch a lie midair. Then I saw it. A shoe in the hallway. Not mine. Too narrow, too clean. Next to it, a crumpled sock like someone stepped out of himself in a hurry. I didn't move fast. I didn't move out loud. My eyes tracked the mess the way they track a bad wire run, calm, automatic, already measuring the damage. Another shirt near the stairs. Men's. Dark button-up. The kind I don't own because I don't dress like I'm trying to impress strangers. My mouth went dry. Not from shock. From certainty. Upstairs, the shower ran. A steady rush behind the closed bathroom door. Like a curtain you can't see through. And under it, thin, bright laughter. My wife laughed. The one she used to give me when we were alone, and it felt like we were a team. It hit like pressure behind the eyes. Not tears. Heat. Rage wants noise. It wants fists, words. Something that makes the moment smaller by making it explode. I kept walking. The clothes kept leading me. Pants draped over the banister. A belt coiled on the landing. Like breadcrumbs from a man who thought he belonged here. Like my house was a hotel and my marriage was just a door that locked from the inside. I stopped at the end of the hallway where our bedroom door sat half open. The air changed there, warm, damp, scented with her shampoo and something else. Not a smell I could name, but I knew what it meant. I didn't step in. I stood in the doorway and let my eyes do the work. A second toothbrush on the sink. A watch on the dresser that wasn't mine. The bed disturbed on one side like a story recently told. The shower kept running. The laughter came again, softer this time, like it was meant for someone close. My hand tightened around the lilies until the paper crinkled. I could kick the door. I could tear the house open with my voice. I could make the moment about my fury. Or I could take my time and decide what happens next. I turned away from the bedroom, silent as the house had been when I walked in. And for the first time all day, I felt awake. I'm not the kind of man who talks pretty. I wire buildings for a living industrial electrician out of Columbus. The work is loud, hot, and honest. You show up, you do it right, and you go home with your hands scraped and your head clear. I've always liked jobs where the rules don't change depending on someone's mood. That's how I built our life. Overtime, night shifts, weekend calls when other guys didn't answer. I didn't do it for applause. I did it because the mortgage doesn't care about your feelings and kids don't eat promises. We bought the house when Chloe was little. Suburban, safe streets, decent schools. The kind of place you pick because you want your family to have better than you did. I grew up in a place where home meant thin walls and shouting through them. I wanted quiet. I wanted stability. I wanted a front door that closed like it meant something. My wife, Sarah, used to like that about me. She'd say I was solid, dependable, a man who handled things. Early on, our rhythm made sense. She kept the warmth in the house. I kept the lights on. When something broke, I fixed it. When money got tight, I took another shift. I didn't write poems. I filled the tank. I patched the drywall. I remembered what she liked at the grocery store without asking. That was love to me. Practical. Reliable. Real. Somewhere along the way, real started sounding to her like not enough. It didn't happen in one big betrayal at first. It happened in small, easy-to-ignore changes. The way she stopped looking up when I walked in. The way her phone lived face down on the counter like it had something to hide. The way she'd say, "I'm just tired," and keep saying it until it became a wall. I told myself it was normal. 16 years of marriage doesn't stay shiny. Teenagers don't make homes quieter. They make them louder. Chloe had her own life now. Friends, school, a driver's permit, that look teens get when they're halfway out the door even while they're sitting at the table. I thought stability meant safety. I thought if I kept showing up, the foundation held. And it did. Right up until I stood in that hallway with lilies in my hand, staring at a stranger's clothes like they were evidence. That's the thing about being a working man. You get used to weight. You forget the one thing you can't carry for someone else's loyalty. I didn't go upstairs. That surprised me more than the clothes did. I moved like I was back at work. Quiet, precise, no wasted motion. The hallway was a checklist now. Shirt, belt, jeans. I picked them up with 2 fingers like they were contaminated and carried them down without letting them touch me. In the kitchen, I grabbed the metal mixing bowl Sarah used for pancake batter. It had a dent in the rim from the time Chloe dropped it, and we laughed about it for a week. Funny how objects don't know when the story changes. I walked out to the driveway. The evening air hit my face cold and clean. My truck sat there like it always did. Dust on the fender, tools in the bed. Normal. Solid. The kind of normal that makes betrayal feel even uglier. I dumped the stranger's clothes into the bowl. Then I looked at the lilies in my hand. Still wrapped, still trying to be a gesture. I set them on top like an offering I no longer believed in. For a second, I just stood there, listening to the house. The shower still ran upstairs. Her laughter floated down again. Careless. Like I was the one who didn't exist. I struck a match from the box by the grill. My hands didn't shake. I didn't feel brave. I felt done. The flame caught the paper first, then the fabric. It wasn't dramatic like movies. It was steady, certain. A small, controlled fire that said one thing clearly. You don't get to keep this hidden. I didn't yell her name. I didn't storm the stairs. I watched the smoke rise into the twilight like a signal. The front door opened fast. Footsteps. Panic. Sarah appeared in the doorway wearing a robe that didn't close all the way, hair wet, face already searching for an excuse. Behind her, a man I'd never seen stood frozen on the landing. Half-dressed, eyes wide like he couldn't believe the consequences were real. Sarah's gaze hit the driveway, hit the bowl, hit the burning lilies. Her hand went to her mouth. I met her eyes and kept my voice level. Happy birthday. The guy didn't last. He took one look at the fire, one look at me, and his courage folded in half. He mumbled something I didn't catch. An apology maybe? Or a prayer? And tried to slip past Sarah like he'd been invited to the wrong party. I didn't block him. I didn't swing. I didn't give him the gift of a story where he was important. He jogged down the driveway barefoot, clutching his shoes in one hand, and disappeared into the dark like a mistake trying to outrun itself. Sarah stayed in the doorway, shaking like the house was cold instead of her. Ethan, she started. I held up a hand. Not angry, not loud, just final. The way you stop a machine before it tears someone's arm off. She stepped forward anyway, eyes glossy, voice breaking into pieces. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it just... Her words came fast, messy, desperate. All of it about how she felt. None of it about what she'd done. I watched her like I was watching a stranger in my kitchen. Like I'd already walked out of the room in my head and my body was just catching up. The fire in the bowl collapsed into blackened clumps. The lilies turned to ash. It smelled like burnt cloth and sweet flowers dying. Sarah moved closer, reaching for my arm. I took one step back. That was when she understood there wasn't going to be a scene she could manage. No argument she could steer. No apology big enough to put the walls back where they were. She sank onto the porch step and started crying for real. Ugly, loud. The kind of crying that wants someone else to carry it. I didn't. I went inside and sat in the living room with the lights off. The house felt different now. Like every room had been searched. Like something private had been handled with dirty hands. Upstairs, her sobs echoed through the vents. Each one landed and kept landing like a dripping faucet you can't shut off. And all I could think about wasn't her. It was Chloe, 16, smart, observant, still young enough to believe a home means protection. The marriage was already gone. I could feel that, clean and cold. But the real damage, the kind that lasts, was still on the way home from school. Chloe climbed into the passenger seat like she always did. Backpack tossed at her feet, hair pulled up, earbuds halfway in. Then she looked at me and froze. "What's wrong?" she asked. Not "Hi, Dad." Not "How was work?" Just that. Like she could smell smoke in the air even with the windows up. I kept my eyes on the road. Hands at 10 and 2. Steady. I didn't want my voice to do anything dramatic. I didn't want her first memory of this to be me breaking apart. "Nothing you did," I said. That made her sit straighter. We drove in silence for a minute. Columbus traffic. Gray sky. The normal world doing normal things while mine stayed split open. When we pulled into the driveway, she looked at the dark marks where the bowl had been. The faint stain on the concrete. The air still had that burned sweetness to it if you knew what to notice. She followed me inside slowly, scanning the house like it was a room she'd never been in before. "Where's Mom?" she asked. I set my keys on the counter, took a breath, pointed at the kitchen table. "Sit for a second." She didn't argue. That scared me more than if she had. I sat across from her, elbows on the table, hands clasped. The wood grain between us felt like a line. "Chloe," I said, "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to hear it the way I mean it. You're safe. You're not responsible. And you don't have to fix anything." Her jaw tightened. "Just say it." That was my girl. Direct. No patience for sugar. I held her eyes. "Your mom broke our marriage." Her throat worked like she was swallowing something sharp. "What does that mean?" I didn't look away. "It means she was with another man. Here. Today." The words landed on the table between us like a tool dropped from height. Heavy, hard, real. Chloe stared at me, unblinking. Like if she didn't blink, the sentence might rewind. "No," she said quietly. It wasn't denial. It was disbelief. Like she'd found a crack in a wall and her brain refused to accept it was structural. I kept my voice even. "I saw him." Her eyes darted toward the stairs, toward the hallway, toward the life she thought she understood. She swallowed again. Are you sure?" That question hurt more than the truth. Not because she doubted me, because she needed the world to make sense. "Yes," I said. "I'm sure." Her face changed in slow motion. The tough teenage mask slipped for 1 second and what showed underneath was younger. Scared. Angry. Betrayed in a way she didn't have words for yet. She pressed her palms flat on the table like she was steadying herself. "So what now?" Could have lied. Could have softened it. Could have said we'll see and let hope drag this out for months until it rotted into something worse. Instead, I chose clean. "Now," I said, "we do what we have to do. We don't pretend. We don't let it poison you. And we don't let anyone tell you this is normal." Chloe nodded once, sharp and brittle. Then her eyes filled. She wiped them fast like it was an insult to cry. But the crack was there, and I watched, helpless and furious, as her faith in love took its first real hit right in front of me. That night, the house ran on 2 sounds. The refrigerator cycling and Chloe's footsteps pacing her room like a metronome. Sarah stayed upstairs. I didn't go looking for her. I didn't need more words. I'd heard enough in the doorway. Apologies shaped like excuses. Feelings dressed up like explanations. I wiped down the counter that didn't need wiping. Put a clean mug on a clean rack. Small motions to keep my hands busy while my head did the math. At 11:47, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone and a legal pad. Old habit. When something matters, I write it down. Keeps you from getting talked out of reality later. I typed, "Divorce attorney, Columbus, Ohio." Dozens of names. Smiling headshots. Slogans about fighting for you. I wasn't looking for a fighter. I was looking for a closer. Someone who handled paperwork like a wrench. Tight, clean, no slipping. I picked a firm that looked plain. No flames, no gavel graphics, no macho marketing. Just family law, years in practice, a list of services that didn't try to charm me. My thumb hovered over the call button. This was the line. Once you cross it, you don't get to pretend you're thinking. You're choosing. And choosing means you can't blame the world for what comes next. I hit call. A voicemail was picked up. I didn't hang up. I left my name, number, and a simple message. I need a consultation. Divorce. Minor child. Please call back. When I ended the call, the kitchen felt different. Not lighter, sharper, like a room after you turn the lights on and see the mess clearly. I stared at the legal pad and wrote the date. Then I wrote one sentence under it. I will not live in a house built on disrespect. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Maybe Sarah is moving. Maybe just the house settling. I didn't care. For the first time since the Lilies, I felt the shift. Not relief, control. The kind you earn when you stop waiting for someone else to do the right thing and start doing it yourself. She texted me all morning like she could flood the truth out of the house. Please, we need to talk. I'm sorry. I'll explain. I didn't answer until noon. One message. One sentence. High Street. 2 o'clock. You talk, I listen. I picked a coffee shop with big windows and hard chairs. Public places keep people honest. Or at least keep them from getting theatrical. Sarah was already there when I walked in, sitting at a corner table with a paper cup she wasn't drinking. Hair pulled back. Makeup half done like she'd started and quit. She stood like she wanted to run to me, then remembered I wasn't hers to grab anymore. Ethan, sit, I said. She sat. I didn't order anything. I didn't need comfort. I needed facts. I slid my phone onto the table, screen down. Start from the beginning. Her eyes flicked around the shop. Can we? Beginning, I repeated. She swallowed. It wasn't supposed to happen. That's not the beginning. I leaned back. Name. She flinched like the word slapped her. Mark. Last name. She hesitated, then said it. Soft. Like if she whispered it, it would matter less. I nodded once and kept my voice level. How long? Her hands tightened around the cup. A few months. Define that. She stared at the table. Since late summer. I did the math without moving my face. Nights I worked late. In the mornings I left early. On weekends I took extra calls. All that stability I thought I was building. Turns out it made room for him. Where did you meet him? I asked. Gym, she said quickly, like she'd been waiting to blame something. He listened. He noticed me. There it was. No remorse. Just hunger. What about Chloe? I asked. Her eyes finally met mine, watery and desperate. I never wanted to hurt her. But you did, I said. Calm. Flat. You hurt her because you wanted to feel seen. She shook her head hard. I felt lonely. You were always working. You weren't. I held up a hand. Don't. Her mouth stayed open for a second, then closed. She looked like she'd just realized the old arguments weren't going to start the engine anymore. I leaned forward just enough. You don't get to tell me the reason you chose this. Sarah's shoulders sagged. What do you want from me? The truth, I said. And then I want you to understand something. She waited, almost hopeful. I let the words land clean. I'm done being someone's backup plan. It was 2 nights later when she showed up. I heard her car before I saw it. Tires crunching gravel, engine idling too long like she wasn't sure she deserved to cut it. Chloe was in her room with the door shut. I'd already told her she didn't have to talk to her mother until she wanted to. That was the one thing I could control for her. The pace of her own hurt. The doorbell rang once, then again, then a knock like a fist trying to become an apology. I opened the door and stopped in the frame. I didn't step out. I didn't invite her in. The threshold matters. People forget that until you make it real. Sarah stood on the porch in a coat she hadn't bothered to button. Eyes red. Cheeks are blotchy. Hands trembling around her phone like it was a shield. Ethan, please, she said. Just let me in. No. One word. Not cruel. Just accurate. Her face crumpled. I ended it. I told him it's over. I'll do anything. Therapy. Counseling. You'll do anything now, I said. Because now it costs you something. She stepped closer and reached out, stopping herself mid-motion like she remembered the last time I stepped away. I made a mistake. I kept my voice low. A mistake is buying the wrong paint. This was a decision you repeated. She shook her head, crying harder. I love you. I didn't react. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing it hit. Love isn't what you say when you're scared. Love is what you protect when it's easy to destroy. From inside, the house was quiet. No TV, no footsteps, just the weight of Chloe behind a closed door, listening whether she wanted to or not. Sarah's eyes darted past me, searching the hallway like she could sneak back into her old life. Where's Chloe? Safe, I said. And she's not doing this tonight. Sarah's mouth opened to protest, then closed. She knew she'd lost the right to demand. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know, I said. I started to close the door. She lunged forward, catching it with her palm. Don't do this. Don't end us like this. I held her gaze steady. You ended it. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. I pushed the door shut, firm but controlled, until the latch clicked. No slam, no speech, just a boundary doing its job. On the other side, I stood for a second with my hand on the knob. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like protection. For Chloe. For me. For the home that would never run on excuses again. The courthouse smelled like old paper and tired coffee. Nothing heroic about it. No soundtrack. Just fluorescent lights and people in their own quiet disasters waiting to be processed. Sarah sat 3 chairs away like distance could soften what happened. She wore a blouse that tried to look normal. Hair done, hands folded tight in her lap. Her eyes found mine once, then dropped. I didn't give her any anger. I didn't give her comfort. I gave her what she earned. Neutrality. My attorney, plain suit, plain voice, leaned in and said, We're up. We walked into the room like we were going to get a license renewed. The judge read through the final paperwork in a tone that said he'd done this 1,000 times. Dates, names, addresses, Chloe's custody schedule, child support, division of assets, the house, the retirement accounts. The words were clean, but the reality behind them was anything but. Do you understand? The judge asked Sarah. And do you agree? Sarah's voice caught. Yes. The judge looked at me. Same question. Yes, I said. There's a moment in a job when you tighten the last bolt and the thing becomes what it is. Not what you hoped. Not what you pictured. What it actually is. That's what the final signature felt like. The last turn of a wrench. When the judge said, This divorce is granted, I didn't feel victory. I felt the air clear, like someone finally opened a window in a room that had been rotting for months. Outside, Sarah followed me into the hallway. Ethan, I didn't stop. I didn't speed up either. Just kept walking. I'm sorry, she said, voice thin. I'll always be sorry. I paused at the double doors, hand on the push bar, and glanced back. Be sorry in a way that helps Chloe. She nodded like she'd take any scrap I tossed her. I left without another word. On the drive home, the city looked the same. Same cracked sidewalks, same traffic, same billboards telling men to buy trucks and women to buy happiness. The world doesn't change when your life does. It just keeps going and expects you to keep up. Chloe was on the couch when I walked in, knees tucked up, hoodie pulled over her hands. She looked up and didn't ask how it went. She didn't need to. My face told her the paperwork was done. It's official? She asked. Yeah, I said. It's official. She nodded once. Then her throat worked and her eyes went glassy for a second like something inside her loosened and slid into a new place. Okay, she said. Not happy, not relieved, just accepting. I sat on the edge of the coffee table so I was close but not crowding her. Are you doing all right? She shrugged. Teen shrug. A whole paragraph packed into one motion. I don't know. I'm mad and embarrassed. And I hate that people might know. They might, I said. And they can mind their business. That got the smallest twitch at the corner of her mouth. Not a smile. A recognition. Like she remembered I'm not built to perform for other people. I don't want to be like her, she said suddenly, eyes hard. The words hit me in the sternum. Not because she said it. Because she meant it. You won't be, I said. You're your own person. What if I pick the wrong person? She asked. What if love is just fake? I kept my voice steady. Love isn't fake. People can be fake. Love is what you do when nobody's clapping. She stared at her hands. So how do I know? You watch your actions, I said. You watch patterns. And you don't ignore your gut just because you want something to be true. She nodded slowly, like she was filing it away for later. That night, I started therapy. Not because I wanted to heal my inner child. Not because I needed someone to tell me I was a good man. I went because anger is a tool, and if you don't control it, it controls you. Because Chloe deserved a father who was present. Not a man haunted in the next room. The therapist was a middle-aged guy with tired eyes and a calm voice. He didn't flinch at my bluntness. He didn't try to soften words I didn't want softened. What do you want? He asked. Out of this. I didn't hesitate. I want my house to feel safe again, and I want my daughter to believe loyalty is real. He nodded. Then we work. That became the rhythm. Work. Dinner with Chloe. Dishes. 2 nights a week therapy. Saturday mornings at the hardware store even if I didn't need anything. Just walking aisles, planning small projects, keeping my hands moving. Sunday afternoons cooking with Chloe, letting her pick music, letting her talk when she wanted to talk. I didn't badmouth Sarah. I didn't protect her either. When Chloe asked questions, I answered them clean. No poison. No fantasy. The house changed in small ways. I repainted the bedroom a flat gray and moved the furniture. Not because paint fixes betrayal. Because I refused to sleep inside the same layout as the lie. I replaced the lock on the front door, then realized it wasn't about security. It was a symbol you don't get access just because you used to. The biggest change was the wall above the fireplace. That's where our wedding photo had been. For years it sat there like a trophy. Smiling faces, a promise captured in glass. After the driveway fire, I couldn't look at it without feeling my jaw tighten. I took it down one Tuesday night while Chloe was doing homework. She came into the living room and watched me set the frame on the floor. What are you putting there? I thought about it for weeks. I didn't want an empty square. Empty looks like loss. I wanted something that meant forward. I hung a simple piece of wood with a metal hook rack. Clean lines, solid, made to hold weight. Under it, I mounted a small shelf. On the shelf, I set 2 things. A framed photo of Chloe at age 6 missing her front tooth, and a cheap little notebook with a black cover. Chloe tilted her head. What's the notebook? I picked it up and tapped the cover. New story, I said. Not hers. Not mine from before. Ours from now. She studied me, suspicious like teenagers are when adults get meaningful. You're gonna write? Yeah, I said. Just one honest line at a time. I opened it and wrote the first sentence with Chloe watching, my handwriting blunt and steady. Betrayal happened, but it isn't the headline. I closed the notebook and set it back on the shelf like it belonged there. Chloe stared at it for a long moment, then nodded once. The same nod she gave at the table when I told her the truth. Only this time it wasn't brittle. It was building. And in the quiet after, with the house settling around us, I understood something simple. Rubble isn't a graveyard. It's a job site. So I kept working.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.